there was this quote about a secret project that's in the works, but we did not announce in the first meeting because I felt like it was too easy to rip off by another company, and so that's one of the main things.
What does that even mean?
Some crazy stuff. Welcome back to the Break Room. We've learned a lot this week about the future of the DCU, and an X-Men movie has gotten a director. We'll talk about it all. It's the headlines. Hit that graphic. I'm Brandon Barrick, and joining me today, he's got a killer spec script for James Gunn all about Zatanna. It's John Costa.
But we're doing it gender bent. Let's go.
Mantana.
I say full magician pants on the bottom, fishnet top. That's what I want to see in Mantana.
West Hollywood, Montana.
Give him like a visor that he pulls a rabbit out of.
Very Chris Angel.
Also joining us today, he thinks they didn't show enough dong, and 28 years later, it's Zach Huddleston.
I think that about all films.
It's true. It's true. Coming up on the show today, James Gunn won't stop talking and giving interviews. Also,
he's got 3 more weeks to keep talking.
He's filling time. Also today, to me, my X-Men movie director, and also, there's a secret new MCU project out there. We'll get into all that and more, but first, we want to remind you to check out nerdriot.shop, where you can always grab the latest and greatest and new Rockstars merch. I'm wearing a Breakroom hoodie. If you want to support the Breakroom, you can get that. You can get a Breakroom shirt. There's also some new designs constantly going up on nerdriot.shop. We got lots of Fantastic Four designs. There's a new Superman design out there. There's a great Jurassic World design out there. Tons of great stuff. Always being updated constantly. There's even an Ironheart shirt right now.
Yeah, it is. It has an iron heart on it.
It does. It does. Right on the money, baby. Check it out, nerdriot.shop. We also want to remind you to check out our In Our Highlights channel. It's a separate channel on YouTube. You can subscribe to it. Won't cost you nothing. We post short, digestible clips of our podcast shows like Rumor Rundown and Sneak Peek. Check it out in our highlights channel. Don't watch Sneak Peek and Rumor Rundown. Just watch the highlights.
That's
Whoa, hang on.
That's not true.
Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. You can do it all.
Whatever you want.
Okay, let's get into our headlines today. First, I think it's worth noting, today is the 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Today?
Today,
Wow.
premiered on June 20th, 1975.
The first blockbuster.
The first blockbuster, as they like to say. The first big summer movie blockbuster.
It holds
It's a good movie.
There's a lot of 50-year-old movies that feel their age.
Yeah.
That one is still good.
You know, a classic movie saved in the edit, right? The shark wasn't working most of the movie, and less is more. It's what the movie
Also,
says.
the 3 main performances in that movie are just so damn good.
You're talking about
Roy Scheider,
the shark.
Bruce, the kid that gets eaten, and the girl that gets eaten.
Yeah. The girl at the beginning
She
goes,
did a really good performance at the beginning.
But the big 3, I mean, like, the whole final act when they're on the boat. I guess is that even maybe the final 2 acts? It's just, the whole movie's good, but those are just electric sequences. Yeah. Kudos. If you haven't seen Jaws, we got some youngs in the chat, maybe. Go give it a watch.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the biggest jump scare of my life. Because the
scuba diver?
The head coming out in the scuba
that
diver.
still gets me every time.
Man, that thing kills me. Even like other horror movies or anything.
I definitely saw that movie I think the first time in 5th grade, and it scared the bejesus out of me. I mean, they credit that movie with making people afraid of shark attack. People were not afraid of sharks nearly as much.
Beach attendance dropped significantly the year it came out. Yeah, which is wild to think about. Yeah.
Crazy. And now we get a blockbuster every summer. Multiple blockbusters
Kind of
every
wild.
summer.
Do you think there's talks of doing more Jaws movies? I mean, we have the
There
Meg.
has to be conversations.
They're still making. We get a killer shark movie every 2 years, anyways, but none of them in the Jaws actual franchise.
Because Peter Benchley wrote the novel, and the novel's very different from what I understand. I've never read the book. But I would imagine, does he own the rights to that story? Could he sell it? I mean, Universal must have a pretty strong hold on those rights.
And I bet Spielberg has some say. If they did a Twisters-style reboot, get Glenn Powell in there, okay? Young up the cast a little bit, but you could run the same.
Because there are multiple sequels to Jaws, and none of them are that great.
No,
really.
Including a 3D sequel.
Well, that movie scares me the most, right? Because it was set at a water or a SeaWorld-esque marine park. They shot it actually at SeaWorld Orlando. That's where they shot a lot of movie. I was born around that time. My dad was like working adjacent to the park when they were shooting that movie. But that movie looks like garbage because it was made to be watched in 3D. And when they converted it to like the VHS version, it looks terrible. But yeah, they've got to be thinking of that. That has like crossed many desks, right? Do we reboot Jaws? That's like right there with like Back to the Future, right? Like when are we gonna do another Back to the Future? When are we gonna do another Jaws?
Another E.T., right? Like there are in that kind of top 10 all-time box office films. Most of them have been franchised.
Yeah, like Jurassic World, obviously very
They've gone back to Jurassic. They've gone back to Indiana Jones. They've gone back to Star Wars.
Toys thing. Maybe that's me being too cynical, but like you could sell so many dinosaur toys, but like you can't really sell shark toys.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
sell
there are
shark toys
kids
all the
who are,
time.
maybe there
Go
are
to
kids who are
any-
into sharks.
Any aquarium, the gift shop's full of shark toys.
Yeah.
But not in the way that like you're not, like dinosaurs are dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs are dinosaurs. You got me there, John.
They're big.
Dinosaurs are dinosaurs. Some might argue sharks are dinosaurs.
You're right. Some could argue. They're older than trees.
Is that like a hot dog is a sandwich kind of argument? Or?
Whoa. That was the
That's
pre-show.
pre-show. That's pre-show. What do you think will be the biggest movie of this summer? What will be the Jaws of this summer?
Because it's
What will be
right.
the
It's
blockbuster?
probably just between Superman and Fantastic
Well,
Four.
gotta
are we
be
just
leading
saying? Are
the
we
run
just
right
saying
now.
box office?
I will say you
Oh.
can say box office in one hand, but then cultural cachet in another.
Because I mean, nothing might beat Lilo and Stitch. Honestly, nothing that has yet to come out could beat that.
That one didn't have the legs, I would say. I think it dropped.
But it's
off
already
the legs.
over 800 million, isn't it?
Maybe.
Oh.
I believe.
Well, then I took back what I was about to say. God damn.
Worldwide, of course.
Yeah.
But are you saying like of the big three in July, Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, and Fantastic Four?
I mean,
you think
those
are in the running.
Those are your best bets. I don't know if you would argue that like a movie like 28 Years Later may not have
No
the biggest
chance.
box office, but people will be talking about it all summer, or they'll be making, like
and we are exempting spring and early in the year releases like
yeah.
Sinners
Let's say
and
summer
Minecraft movie.
blockbuster.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Minecraft movie will probably be the biggest movie of the year.
When is Utopia 2? Is that
That's
August?
later. That's like September. Right?
Oh, okay.
September.
Is that good? That could be the.
Yeah.
I
best
think
movie
you're
of the
right.
year.
That'll do really well internationally.
Yeah.
If we're just talking about summer movies, if Superman is good, I think it beats Fantastic Four. Even if Fantastic Four is also great, I think that'll do better.
Okay.
Why do you ask, Brandon?
I'm just curious what you think will be the big movie this summer. I think like Superman might do it. I think it might surpass box office. Just like international recognition of Superman, I think is pretty high, and like I think foreign audiences would really flock to it.
And we're
maybe
a little,
more than a Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, we're a little out of touch with like general audiences, but like we've
very out of touch.
had so many flop Fantastic Four movies that I wouldn't be surprised if people are like, I don't care about these people. They're not
I don't
interesting.
know.
We've had some flop Jace Superman movies.
You're right. You're right.
But yeah, I think it's we'll find out. All the tracking has come out for Superman. People saying anywhere from like 90 to 150 million dollars. It's a pretty broad range.
It's gonna be a big July for
and
sure.
There's been experts quoted as saying it has like some of the widest variance of any projection they've seen because they're saying like this movie is going to be extremely review dependent. If the early word is this movie's good, everybody's going to go see it. If the early word is it's bad, nobody's going to go see it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That,
Talk
you
about
could say
in
that
some
applies
articles,
to a lot of movies, but it feels like even more so to this one.
I mean, people in the chat pointing out like big movies like The Phoenician Scheme. Just kidding. But you have like Avatar 3, which will come out in December.
That's
And
winter.
I don't know like how you count that box
Box
office.
office for this year.
Does its total box office count for this year, or will you consider how much view it'll get in like July and probably even February?
We'll be having that conversation again with Doomsday next year.
Yeah, I love Jay Scoots in the YouTube chat said, "You're all wrong. Ari Aster's Eddington will blow the rest of July releases away if we're so lucky."
I mean, Austin Butler caught stealing.
If
I'll
we're
see it 10
oh,
times.
yeah.
Summer of Pedro.
Is that a Soderbergh
man.
movie?
No, that is a
Aronofsky.
Aronofsky movie.
Aronofsky
Oh,
movie.
okay.
Summer of Pedro. I mean, Last of Us, then Eddington, Materialists,
Yeah.
and Fantastic Four.
And he's the dinosaur in the water for Jurassic World.
And isn't
he did the
chases-
mocap
yeah,
for the
that chases
pterodon or
after
whatever?
the-
isn't
Okay, wow.
Pedro in Weapons also? I thought
don't know
Pedro
about that.
Pascal was.
Oh, that's
that
Josh
regular
Brolin, I thought.
Weapons. I thought he was in it. Maybe that's an old story. I don't know. Great stuff. Keep that in, Brian. Speaking of Brian, hey, we got a new Superman promo drop today. Another quick little promo with a couple new shots in it. But hey, it's Friday. Let's take a look at it. Cue that bad boy up.
But he knows he can fly, right?
He gets scared.
But like
Also-
but flying probably is his greatest.
Or laser eyes.
Maybe
there's
that.
a lot of
Yeah,
things
yeah,
that are
yeah.
his actual greatest strength, other than
Super
the fact
strength,
that he
you
can
know, you
get
could argue.
scared.
Just listen to him.
It's also
Being human that's his greatest.
But a correction, he's not human.
well, he doesn't claim to be human.
You're right.
He says
That's
those
what makes
those
me
qualities. No, he doesn't even say that. He says those qualities are human.
Okay.
And that is why it's my greatest strength. It's like I can sniff my own butt. I can eat out of a dish.
What?
Those are the best
Those are
qualities
the
of a dog.
dogs.
That's my greatest strength.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, I understand now.
But also, Zach does those things.
He does.
He eats out of a
That's
dish.
his greatest strength.
Get off my
So
nuts.
James Gunn, there was a big interview that came out earlier this week at Rolling Stone. That came out on Monday. We talked about that earlier this week. Entertainment Weekly put out some additional content from their article they ran back in May.
You think they were jealous?
I think
They were just like,
well,
we had a couple of things.
we were talking about it. I think they realized. So they did a big interview back in May with James Gunn, but also like David Cornsweet, Nicholas Hoult, Rachel Brosnahan. They interviewed a bunch of people, and then today they released like just excerpts from the transcript of just more conversation with James Gunn
With a lot
and
of stuff.
I'm sure they cut it all out, and then they were like, they saw Rolling Stone got more, and they probably knew James was doing other interviews, and they were probably like, let's let that go, and then we'll have our second batch of this. Because if they had put all this out like the week after, it probably would have just gotten lost in their bigger interview. But some of the more interesting tidbits from that article, there was this quote about a secret project that's in the works. So the interviewer asked like how much of these undisclosed title are things that have already been announced versus things that haven't. And James Gunn talked about like several projects, right? His favorite thing has not been announced at all. One of the scripts people kind of know about. My script, the one he's writing, people don't know about. The other script, people don't know about. So it's mostly stuff people don't know about. A couple of those things are in pretty good shape in terms of what's coming up. But there's one thing that I knew about from the very beginning that when I pitched to David Zaslav was what the DCU would be. I pitched it to him, but we did not announce in the first meeting because I felt like it was too easy to rip off by another company. And so that's one of the main things.
What does that even mean?
Some crazy stuff.
Because also, like, too easy for a company to rip off. Like, it's not like another company can make a hot girl movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just rip off a character. So it must be a concept, right? Like, that he is afraid somebody else will do, but that does not need any of the DC specific IP.
Yeah.
What the hell could that mean?
He kind of real quick. He kind of talked about these projects. He also did like the official DC podcast, which is on YouTube with friend of the show Coy Jandro's on that, and he talked about these unannounced projects. And these are all things that are like not part of the initial Gods and Monsters slate, things we haven't heard of. One of them is his personal favorite, like he said. One has not been revealed yet, and another one is in its final scripting phase. And one is something that he's like currently writing, which is likely his next film. But again, it's like something he was afraid other studios would rip off. We were kind of talking about in The Office. Does that mean it's like an IP thing, like Frankenstein, for instance? We know that character exists in Creature Commandos, exists in the DC, but that is also like a Universal monster. So like Universal could make a Frankenstein
and it's kind of
But
public domain at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
But he also says
Guillermo
in
del
that
Toro was
quote,
making a Frankenstein movie.
he says in that quote, like, this was something that I pitched to Zaslav as like how, DC exists. So like you wouldn't go into Zaslav and be like, DC's the future of DC's gonna be
Right,
But,
this
like,
was something he
could-
probably pitched in like
Could
2019
he have
or something.
pitched like Superman fights Dracula or something like that,
Maybe.
and he's afraid that somebody else is going to do an X fights Dracula movie?
Yeah.
My feeling is that it's more like tone or type of movie. My fear would be like around that time, multiversal stories were really popular.
Right.
I mean, still are, but like maybe he had a take on the multiverse that he didn't want someone to steal, something like that, right? Like my take on this type of genre or this type of thing that exists within the genre is maybe my guess. I know that's too vague.
It
and
is like
non-specific.
it's a fascinating concept of like what could a studio steal, and this got us going earlier, which this was a fun convo, so let's do it again. Talking about Hollywood has a long history of like identical movies coming out at about the same time. Most recently, there were 2 Pinocchio movies in the last couple of years: the Netflix Guillermo del Toro and the very bad Disney Tom Hanks one.
And then the third one, the gay one.
Yeah.
There's a gay Pinocchio.
Yeah, there was a gay. There was a gay.
It was like an indie
Font,
film, right?
there was like an indie animated movie, but there was like an audio clip from it where the voice actor of Pinocchio had like a little bit of a gay
Wasn't it?
voice.
So it's not overtly.
No,
it's not like meant to be
People
a
were
clear
just making fun of
coming
it
of
for
age.
being gay.
Okay.
It was wasn't it Pauly Shore? Was
Yeah,
like a
I think
voice
you're right.
in it?
I think
Oh,
you're
God.
right. Father.
Yeah.
This movie.
When will I? Yeah, anyways.
But there was in the '90s there was Volcano and Dante's Peak came out at about the same time. Deep Impact and Armageddon had very similar plots of
You see
asteroids
with kids
crashing.
movies a lot. There was Ants and a Bug's Life.
Yes.
There was like Over the Hedge, or no, Madagascar and Out of the Zoo or something like that.
Yes,
It came out around the same time.
Over the Hedges, right?
I think it was Over the Hedge.
It wasn't Over the Hedge. It was like animals escaping the zoo in New York City was the Disney version, and
Oh,
then Madagascar
you're
also came
right.
out, which is a similar plot.
But like, would this spawn something like that? It is fascinating, and it's also like it makes you wonder because you can't even talk about it. Is
Yeah.
it like is the gimmick that is stealable in the title of the movie?
I don't know. Yeah.
Something like it obviously is not this, but something like Batman vs Superman, right? Like the gimmick is in the title, and like you could see Marvel being like they're doing Batman vs Superman. Let's do Deadpool versus Wolverine, or let's do Hulk versus Spider-Man, or whatever, right?
But I think that Gunn, I mean, look, we don't know, but it seems like very publicly at least, Gunn and Feige still have a very good relationship, still keep up with one another. I think it would be really kind of, I don't think Gunn would be so secretive or holding this so close to the chest if he was afraid of Marvel ripping it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's probably more, I mean, he says rival studio, like all studios. So it's like,
Yeah.
it has to be something that like Netflix or Sony could also do.
Like there is a lot in DC that is public domain, similar to Marvel with like gods, mythical gods,
Hercules,
Thor.
Hercules,
blah, blah, blah.
Ares, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like a weird little quote.
And maybe we're about to get to this, but the very next talking point, James is not doing a Superman sequel. He was asked what his next project is. But he said his film is a spiritual sequel.
I kind of wrote that. I
Or he
described
said
it that way. Yeah.
it's kind of a sequel or something like
they were
that.
like, is the thing you're working on like a sequel to Superman? And he was like, no. Well, I mean, it follows after the story, but no.
Yeah, so it's not Superman 2.
Yeah.
But it could be something that Superman appears in. And this is the next movie he is writing.
Yes.
Right? We don't know, did he say if he's going to direct this movie or not?
Did not say that, but again, it's like it seems like if he's gonna write it, he would probably direct it.
It did in the Rolling Stone article, a different article. He did sort of say like his favorite thing right now is directing.
Yeah.
and that kind of made it seem like if he's going to write something, he would only be directing it. Yeah,
Yeah, and it would make sense. Like if you can kick off the reason they're starting with like Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker season 2. These were all projects James was working on before he was made co-CEO of DC Studios. So it was like stuff that was already in the works. And then after this, we'll have like Lanterns, we'll have Supergirl, Clayface is going to get going soon. So those are the things we know about. And then like all these other projects can come. If he feels like he can set the tone right with Superman, then maybe he doesn't feel the pressure to take on such a big movie for his sequel or for his next movie. He doesn't have to do Superman Part 2. He can do a smaller story.
Yeah, it will be
somewhere else.
interesting to see how that looks because it was like, Zack Snyder during that era of DC. Obviously, James Wan would direct Aquaman movie. Whoever did Birds
Patty
of Prey
Jenkins
or Patty
would
Jenkins
come
would
in
do a Wonder
and
Woman. But he was the only one directing anything that Superman appeared in, basically, right? Be that Batman vs Superman, Superman, or Justice League.
though even though didn't DC go to James Gunn in 2018, maybe earlier than that,
Yeah.
for a Superman movie?
Yeah,
so
they were talking about Superman
It
back then.
seems like maybe they were.
that would have been maybe right post Justice League, right? Like they were ready to.
Well, I guess that was when the studio sort of parted ways with.
Yes.
And I mean, that would have been
Snyder
interesting
until
if,
coming back for Snyder
part
Cut.
of that pitch was like do it with Cavill, or were they already ready
he seemed
to
to
recast?
indicate, I think when he talked about, they were already looking to go beyond Cavill. Like that, I think they were looking to start over, basically.
I mean, hey, DC, they'll have 5 Jokers going at the same time. You think they won't have 2 Supermans?
I'm the Joker, baby. In this Entertainment Weekly kind of transcript, they also, they asked about the Ultraman character. That's a character we've seen in the trailer, usually fully covered. He's strong like Superman. They asked, was it Lex trying to create a Superman? And James Gunn said, it's close. Yeah, I think that's close. Ultraman is sort of Lex's thug and is pretty powerful. He's been kind of cagey about it. I don't know. In that trailer we just showed, there's that sequence where it looked new, where Superman's like hitting a person with like very long hair, with like a piece of cement or something like that. That could have been the Ultraman character. I don't know. I don't think that was like Lobo necessarily, though we think Lobo will appear in this movie.
Oh, really?
I think so. I mean, James Gunn has said, at the end of this article too, that like there are other characters who appear in this movie that have not been announced, like other DC characters. We know Lobo's going to show up in Supergirl.
Yeah.
They could have easily.
Presumably, Supergirl's also going to show up in this movie, right?
Yeah. We assume we'll see Supergirl in this movie. There is like a small tease in the stadium, the baseball stadium, where there's tons of like billboards and stuff. There in the background, there's like Comet Airlines. Comet is Supergirl's horse that is actually a person turned into a horse. Well, it is a centaur turned fully into a horse by a being that Supergirl like runs around with.
Half man, half horse.
But it was weird
horse.
because like, why would they name an airline after Supergirl's horse? I don't know. That to me is very confusing.
I mean, Comet's a relatively popular term, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it was Comet Airlines, and the logo was a horse.
Oh, okay. That feels pretty on the nose.
It feels pretty on the nose.
That's
And
a production designer doing something that they think.
I think so. And Comet the horse is in the Supergirl World of Tomorrow comic book, so we think the character would be in the movie. I don't know. We'll see. They talked about one of the early trailers for this movie that showed like kind of Superman flying, and James Gunn was like, "Oh yeah, he said this weird thing where he's like he kind of cut that from the movie because it wasn't a finished VFX shot. And they were kind of throwing stuff together. And he's like, I review everything, but that one got by me. We think it was. I think we have an image here. This was like in the first trailer that kind of showed Superman flying around. He was trying to say like this wasn't a finished shot, and they just kind of slapped it together. I don't know. To me, this was weird because he kind of indicated that he heard the feedback and was like, "Oh yeah, this is bad. We'll take it out." But it's like, did you think this was good? I didn't really align with the criticism of like how the flying looked.
That's not Sonic's teeth to you or whatever.
No, it didn't look weird. I mean, a human being flying through the air looks weird. Like that's uncanny.
With a GoPro style camera angle, right?
Yeah, I think it's like if we.
We don't need to harp on this image, I guess. He would stand his ground, is all I'm saying. And just be like,
yeah, but
away,
you want him to stand his ground on something that's bad?
I didn't think it was bad. I don't know.
Here's my problem with this shot. And again, we shouldn't necessarily harp on it. Brian, would you mind pulling it up?
Don't harp on it. It's not a finished
Why
shot.
is his chest so far down? Where are his legs?
I don't know. I've never
Just
flown straight.
He just like is very
before.
U-shaped in this. If I'm imagining the rest of his body,
because
just like in a weird.
Is some of that
position.
because if I were to lay flat across
Hop up on this desk. Hop up on this desk.
and then get my head up to be face on into camera, like your neck is not flexible enough, and you have to get some of your torsion via your T-spine, as they say, right? Like your neck does not have a kind of range of motion so that you could, like if I were coming directly at you bullet style, then you could also see my face. So in order to do that, I need to kind of dolphin up a little bit. Maybe some of that.
And obviously, they wanted to get the full crest in the shot. That's why they did it.
The tagline is "Look up." Maybe you just have to look up. You might get it.
Yeah. Now you're in the movie.
I kind of want to try it. No, I'm not gonna do it.
I would not
on this desk. Not on this desk.
They also talked about like the importance of Superman and Peacemaker in kind of like setting the stage for like the gods and monsters phase, which is what James Gunn initially called this like first chapter of the DCU. He said not so much Creature Commandos, but more Peacemaker and Superman really set up the like what's going on here.
They're gonna be important.
And I feel like his kind of like mysteriousness around this. It's very similar to how like I think Marvel's being right now about its neck. This kind of like what Fantastic Four is going to set up, kind of setting the stage for Doomsday, where they don't want to say anything yet until people have seen how it all works. Because we know in Peacemaker there's going to be some multi-dimensional shenanigans. I mean, you talked about multiverse stuff. It's going to be in Peacemaker because he's going to see a different world where his dad's alive, his brother's alive, all that kind of stuff. They're going to have to explain how the ending of Peacemaker Season 1 with the Justice League vibes with what's going on now. And
I don't know. Do you think they'll just ignore that?
I'm fine ignoring it.
My theory is
I think
it's just a big LSD trip and nothing is
Well, there's all these shots, right, of Superman when he's in that weird prison. That seems like it's in a weird void space. Mr. Terrific kind of creating like almost like a portal looking thing. The ground splitting in two and like opening a rift. It does feel like there's some multi-dimensional shenanigans that are going to happen in this movie, and that's going to explain this kind of gods and monsters universe.
It's also very interesting and very good promo on James Gunn's behalf for Peacemaker Season 2, because like Peacemaker Season 1 was a fun show, completely superfluous to enjoying anything in the DC.
It was
right?
it felt silly. It felt on the side.
Yeah, you did not need to watch that to understand Justice League or to understand anything, Aquaman 2 or anything like that, right? Even though there is a brief cameo by some of those characters at the end. Whereas it feels like now he is setting up, no, this is pretty germane to what's to come.
But at the same time, he's also saying in all these interviews, like, but you don't have to watch everything. You don't have to watch Superman.
Everything works as standalone. You can pop in, which is like...
He's too afraid to be like, you have to watch everything, but also he doesn't want to say like, well, you don't have to watch everything.
How do we fix this? Hey, it's not our
Stop
our
making
job to fix
cinematic
it.
universes?
How do we, I mean, but like we really enjoy these cinematic universes. I just watched 28 Years Later last night, and it's like, there has to be text at the beginning that explains everything, because that movie came out in 2002.
Even if you had watched the movie, it's been
forever.
years.
Star Wars
but like
starts
it makes
with
the
text.
movie worse.
Star Wars starts with a wall of text.
I guess.
I guess like there
I'm not
is...
saying, but like that's
That makes
iconic
it
to
better.
Star Wars. If every movie started with a wall of text, I'd be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
I mean, he literally, James Gunn said, he had a quote that was kind of like, well, for Peacemaker, you can start each episode with previously in the DCU. And it's like, that's going to get messy.
Can you do that for a movie? And then,
I don't know.
I don't know. When you're watching it at home, say skip.
I mean, the best argument is... just pick something randomly, like the Penguin series, right? You did not need to have seen the Batman to fully understand that. They had a very quick recap of what happened in the Batman, but like it shows you a different character's point of view of the events of Batman, the flooding, right? So it's like, you don't need to have seen that movie. Also, it feels like by the end of Penguin, you don't need to have seen Penguin to understand anything that's going to come after it, including the Batman 2, probably, right? So it is like, that is the best version. Feels like, something like Lanterns or whatever maybe could achieve a similar thing of like, it completely works as a standalone.
That's a great point. Showing it from a new character's perspective so that it's additive and you show like what this event meant to this character. Like seeing Bruce in Batman v Superman when Superman destroys all of his shit.
Zod was there too.
You know.
And Zed, the DJ Zed, was also there.
Calvin Harris was doing his "I Have a Dream" remix from
he said
COVID or
from this
whatever.
Martin Luther King.
Do you think,
That's
do you
like-
think he brought that back for Juneteenth?
You know, who knows?
That's a deep cut. And
Google
I
it,
hope everyone
folks.
gets that reference.
Google it. Okay.
So he has all this stuff that's going to be happening in these movies and TV shows that is important, but also you don't have to worry about it all. But he was really stressing the importance of Peacemaker and Superman, kind of setting the stage for this world. Another weird kind of thing in this interview, James Gunn said that like an A-list actor gave him a pitch for an Elseworld story that he really liked. But he was kind of like talking about this in the vein of like, once we get a script, then we can move forward. But until there's a script, we're not doing
In fact,
anything.
he said, if the script is a masterpiece, we will do it.
So about this A-list actor, James Gunn said, quote, I told it to one person who came in and pitched something that was an Elseworlds tale. It was a very, very, very famous movie actor. I said, quote, it depends on how the screenplay comes out. If it's a masterpiece, I'll make it, but it has to be a masterpiece. He laughs. And then he is like, I don't know if it's a masterpiece. He got all funny. He's still working on it, though. He's still trying to do it. We'll see. Masterpiece might be pushing it, but it's really got to be great. It's got to be really great. Who's this A-list actor?
Okay.
And who's this A-list actor where James Gunn can kind of say, like, we're good?
I have a pitch.
Okay.
I have a pitch, okay? Somebody is watching maybe just the first Joker movie.
Okay.
But not necessarily Folie à Deux. But like, and they're like, oh, an Elseworlds project that like really works. It's like a great character showcase for me as an actor and a writer or whatever. Also, I know the director of that movie. We've worked together.
Okay.
My pitch, Bradley Cooper.
Okay.
Okay. He made the Hangover films with Todd Phillips, director of both Joker movies. Bradley Cooper, also a bit of an auteur himself, having directed and written several films.
He saw that it got an Oscar. It won Joaquin Phoenix an Oscar.
Yes, Bradley
I like
Cooper
this
wants his
one. I like
Oscar.
this take.
So, and he's A-list. I think you could make a solid argument.
Yeah,
he's A-list.
he's A-list.
And like, you could see a world where he's like, I want to I want to do a Batman movie, but my Batman movie is going to be like I'm playing world famous pianist Batman. And it's like Leonard Bernstein Wayne, or
Batman trying
he's gonna run it back.
to do a relationship.
I think here's the
He's
thing.
like, I spent a lot of money on these noses.
Bradley Cooper's got a taste for the musical.
Okay.
Star is Born and Maestro.
He didn't watch Folie à Deux.
Well, that's right. He skipped that part. But he's like, I want to do a Batman movie that's a musical.
He's like, Lady Gaga, I'm going to get to it. I promise. I just haven't had time to
who are
watch
the
it.
other, and everyone's different definition of A-list is a little different. But we have to assume this is maybe not an actor that is certainly not an actor that's currently involved in the DCU. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe not an actor that's heavily involved in the MCU, one would think.
And
Or one of these other Guardians motherfuckers like Bradley.
Is this an actor who is pitching
it be Kurt
themselves
Russell?
in this movie, or they just really want to write an
You have to imagine there's not a huge history of A-list actors as only behind the camera. Usually they're also putting themselves, even like Clint Eastwood, it was pretty deep into his career before he was not
Ben
acting in
Affleck
his
will
movies.
do that sometimes, right? He'll dip behind the camera and not be in the movie.
Yeah.
Wait,
Trying to think
what
of
Ben Affleck movie has he not been in front of the camera?
Okay.
Argo,
Putting on the spot
he
here.
acted.
I'm dead certain that there are actors who, there's a movie that's trying to come to the front of my brain. And I can't remember what it is.
Did Ben Affleck direct Gone Baby Gone? His brother in Gone Baby Gone? And
He
not
did direct
appear
that.
in it?
I'm not
So
sure.
he's not in that. So that's a good example. Ben Affleck, maybe that's another one. He's been in the DC. Maybe he's like, well, I just have a pitch for a movie. I don't want to be Batman anymore, but maybe
I can't go back.
I have my Elseworlds Riddler movie I want to pitch you or something like that. Also, maybe I am overly caught up on it, but James was like, I asked if it was a masterpiece, and he said no, and he got all funny. He describes the person as getting funny.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, is it a comedian?
I
Is
think
Kevin Hart coming to him with a pitch?
Oh, I read that differently. Interesting.
I think it was Austin Butler wanted to do Plastic Man.
But an Elseworlds plastic.
He's the Elseworlds Plastic Man. He's a man made of plastic.
Oh,
Mama is made of plastic.
Oh, mama, my limbs are made of plastic.
I got big old glasses on. I'm made of plastic. Stretch me all over the place. Indestructible.
Kevin Hart pitches Black Batman 5'2". Funny. Masterpiece.
Spike
Funny
Jones.
Batman. Funny Batman.
Spike Jones directing? Spike Jones not an A-list actor.
Oh, you're right. He's not A-list.
What
He is
is
an actor,
Spike
though.
Jones doing? It's free
He's doing
reign
Apple
Friday.
commercials with Pedro. You know what I mean?
Do more features,
something
Spike
cool,
Jones.
Spike.
Where have you been? I just
He's
rewatched
just enjoying.
some of his movies
Adaptation?
recently. Adaptation's so good.
So good.
Even Her. I like Where the Wild Things Are.
more than
I think
you.
a lot of people didn't enjoy Where the Wild Things Are, but I loved it. Like, dog, come back, Spike Jones. Wherever you are, dog,
Spike
come
Jones,
back.
pitch James Gunn your masterpiece Elseworld story. Well, you brought up Bradley Cooper. James Gunn did reveal, this was in an interview he did with BuzzFeed Australia. They asked about Guardians characters showing up or Guardians actors showing up in Superman. And he revealed that Bradley Cooper, Palm Clementif, and Michael Rooker all appear as Superman robots in this movie.
Ooh.
Which
I think is funny.
I didn't
you
realize they were
already
gonna
know
be so chatty.
Alan Tudyk is voicing one of the robots, and another
I mean,
actor.
K2, they just got K2SO.
They brought over K2SO. They moved him from Star Wars
sense.
to the
Dog,
DCU.
Very similar
an underrated time travel hypothetical is you get a time machine today, go back and make childhood friends with James Gunn. You will get work, okay?
Get born as
Oh,
his
we don't
brother.
know.
The
We don't know.
amount of-
Yeah, it's his
I mean,
brother
also-
and then actors.
Yes, but like,
Do you think
I
his
mean,
childhood
Nathan
friend-
Fillion,
His wife.
his wife, yeah, like, dog, if you, become child or adult friends with James
Yeah.
Gunn, somehow get cast in some of his early work, and you will just, Michael Rooker has
That goes
booked
for
so much.
That goes for a lot of people. It's always so interesting to hear like so and so were roommates and that they both became
Yeah.
famous together. I can
Yeah.
think of like Bruce Campbell is a great example of
Sam
someone who
Raimi,
maybe wouldn't
yes.
have the biggest the career that he has.
Wes Anderson and the Wilson brothers,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
While you're at it, if you could swing by the 1930s and kill Hitler before he rises to power, that would be great. But
But then you couldn't
You're
be in
waiting till
Guardians 3.
Finland.
Guardians 3 wouldn't exist without Hitler. So
think so?
Or if you're nonviolent, just go back and buy some of his paintings. Do you think that's like a butterfly effect of like maybe he's not so
let him pee on
messed
you
up?
for a little while.
Pee.
You
Was
didn't know
he-
that was a
was he
Hitler
a
King?
pee-pee guy?
I think he peed on his cousin or something. I don't know.
we'll never know.
Is this definitely not fanfic?
Now,
My fanfic.
there are rumors about Bradley Cooper having another role in this film. We won't talk about it. But do you think this was a misdirect? To say, oh yeah, Bradley Cooper's in Superman. He's a voice of one of the robots.
Oh, so when we see he's invited to the premiere, we don't rush to conclusions?
Yeah, interesting.
And like, Palm Clementif, could she have another role? She's teased that like James Gunn has talked to her about a role in the DCU. She had teased this years ago, I think.
Well, if she is playing a robot, who cares?
Right, but I mean that's like kind of a voice.
You're not burning your live action.
Right.
Alan Tudyk is voicing a robot, but
Right.
we know he's going to have a more primary role in the DCU. So I think this is a little bit of a misdirect. I think.
And technically, Michael Rooker's already appeared.
Yes,
in
he played a
Suicide
character in Suicide Squad who is dead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a misdirect or if it's just like we're not putting you in this one, but come by the booth and we'll put some voice lines down.
Come by the booth, have a few laughs.
I want to know what the day rate is to say like 9 words as one of.
It's got to be just SAG minimum, right? You're getting paid like $8,000 out the door.
Yeah, but that's
great. Hey,
to us, that's
good
good money. To Bradley Cooper, that's not a big deal. But if he didn't have anything to do that morning,
Right.
for an hour's work,
I got things to do. James Gunn, like I said, he also did like the DC podcast that they have on their YouTube channel. Check it out. It's a very long interview. It's like over an hour. He talked about like the tone of Superman, saying it's not about pretending the world is good. It's about being good despite the world. Clark chooses to love people, and that's the hard part. Because we're messy. We're messy people.
he gets scared. That's what makes him human. That's his biggest strength.
I thought you said that.
Not what makes
No,
him
it's
human.
not what makes him human. It is human.
Now,
It is human to love and to be scared.
He can sniff his own ass, too, right? Okay.
Hey, every dog.
That's what makes him human.
This was interesting. He said Superman has no needle drops. It's just the score.
That's probably for the
no
best,
pop
right?
songs in it. Yeah.
You know what is a shame? That
No Three Doors Down.
No
Kryptonite.
Hey, that Man of Steel, Superman theme is so fucking good. It is so good.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Is that a Zimmer? Or no, that's a.
It's a ba 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 ba. You know that
This
one?
is a Zimmer.
No, yeah, it's a Hans Zimmer from Man of Steel. It's so good.
Okay.
And I get going back to the John Williams, and I think that's more iconic even. But like, it's a shame that we won't get that Hans score.
Oh, I thought you were going. It's a bummer we won't get some Bay City Rollers or some Foreigner or something.
I mean,
in there,
hey, maybe there'll be some diegetic
No, not
music in
well,
there.
so we-
not in this world.
Talking
That's
about
right.
this.
There's
It's
no
Not
New
in
York.
this world.
It's
There's not a
free.
band called Boston. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Oh, or Chicago. Freewheeling Friday. Let's talk about. Is it?
That's not what this is.
No, I've named it.
It's a
I've
Friday
named it.
free-for-all.
It's
Let me
free-for-all.
get the hops go out.
Freewheeling
It's
Friday.
freewheeling free for all Friday.
Freewheeling
And it's
Friday?
fun. And fuck you.
Freewheeling
Okay.
Friday.
Oh,
But James Gunn, in the same interview, right? He talked about, or was it in the Entertainment Weekly? He talked about
It's in this one.
there's no New York in
Yes.
in this world. There's no Seattle. There's there's Gotham.
He said the DCU isn't our Earth. There's no New York. There's Gotham. There's no Seattle. There's Evergreen. The world is fictional, but grounded by emotional logic, not real geography.
What's
Thank
the
God.
fake? What's
That
the
means
fake
there's no
Miami
Florida. Yeah.
that Blue Beetle has said?
Oh,
in,
I forget. Sorry.
Paradise City or something like
Yeah.
that. Great. So that makes kind of sense. But then we were talking about this is a world where
Palmyra City. Palmyra City.
okay, so there's no New York City. So does that mean there was no 9/11 in the DC universe, right? Not only that,
I mean, I think we're about to watch 9/11 happen
Wow.
in Superman. Not
You
but
want-
so
no,
much,
a,
but
a
like-
big disaster.
Well, this
Sure.
is also a world that's had metahumans for 300 years, so it should not be on the same cultural track.
They've
as
had their
ours.
own disasters, but they're not the same as we have. But does that also mean there's no CBGB in this world? You know what I mean? The Talking
What a
Heads.
loss.
There's no Talking Heads. There's no
That would be
Ramones.
sad.
There's no Blondie. You know what I mean?
Zach, there's no CBGB in our world right now.
well, no longer, but there was for a long time. Or
It's a
like
Michael Varvatos story.
name your own cultural touchstone. Obviously there's different sports teams. Here, there's a big fight sequence in a stadium that is not the Giants or the Mets or
Yeah,
the Yankees or
the
anything like that.
DC Comics, if I understand correctly, it has Gotham and Metropolis and all that, but it also still has like New York, New Jersey, like all that too. It's like the world is physically larger in the DCU. It has multiple cities of multiple levels. And I think this is ballsy to be like, no, this whole world is just DCU. I think it's going to get a little tough
get
to make
paid,
references
Now, real quick,
and be interesting.
shout out to birthday boy Christian Unpronounceable. Is there a Canada in the DCU? And or is it like much like Seattle gets renamed Evergreen? Is it like Toronto is Mooseville? Is it Mapletown?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Just hit the
they-
stereotypes, James.
I mean, that's what he does.
Anyways, we're broadcasting from Mapletown.
Mapletown, delicious maple syrup. When they were talking about Millie Alcock on the podcast, James Gunn said like he basically cast her off of House of the Dragon.
Sure. That
He
was
like
her main
messaged
role,
Peter
right?
Safran and it was like, "Have you seen this girl on House of the Dragon?" And like she was basically cast off. of that.
Same parent company.
I'm sure she had to come audition and everything, but
Now,
she had that part.
You've been watching Sirens.
I watched
right?
Sirens.
I'm not watching it, but she's in that, right?
She's in that.
She's one of the leads of that
She's
show.
one of the leads of that
Is she
show.
good? The only thing I've ever seen her in is House of the Dragon.
I will say she's very good on that show. I think it's tough because she has to do an American accent, and I think you can see that she's thinking about it when she's giving her lines, and I think they ADR'd some lines. She's also acting next to like Julianne Moore, Megan Feige,
Killers.
Kevin Bacon's there. Like it's tough because Julianne Moore and like Megan Feige are like killing it on that show, and she's doing a really good job. She also has like an interesting part. I don't know. That show is weird.
I mean,
it's very soap opera.
Well, but she did stand up to like Patty Constantine in House of the Dragon.
Yeah, no, I think
there's
she's
some
a
great
really good
actors on that
actor,
show, too.
and I'm excited to see what she does in
That
Supergirl.
brings up a good point I hadn't thought about until now. Like, is Supergirl going to have an American accent?
It's a good.
Presumably, America doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's called the United States of Gibblegosh.
Wow, nailed it.
Because
Proud to be a Gibblegosh.
because Gibblegosh Vespucci found it. That's why they called it.
They went with the first name, but not the last name.
Gibblegosh. I like that.
And I proudly stand up.
Next to you, my Gibblegoshes, my fellow Gibblegoshes.
Hey, let's make Gibblegosh again. You know what I mean? I don't like what the current Gibblegoshians have done to my country.
Okay, on that note, he also did talk a little bit more about Batman Part 2. And we've kind of been hearing
Dog,
reports all over this place.
I want an Eric Voss video just breaking down the timelines of all the backhanded things James Gunn has said about Matt Reeves.
He's very protective of Matt Reeves. And
Is he?
I think he is. He's trying to defend Matt Reeves a lot and saying, like, when he says something like he's slow.
It was crazy that he said he's slow.
We read it wrong, and I think he's trying to say, like, just give him time. He literally has said, like, back off of his nuts, get off of his nuts.
Off his
Said
nuts.
get off his nuts. Now,
Which is crazy.
Throw in the chat or in the comments.
This has been Zach's bugaboo all
This
day.
is my bugaboo. Nobody says get off his nuts. You either say get off his ass, or maybe you say get off my dick. I have never
Get off his back.
or get off my back would be the maybe most PC way to do it. Nobody says get off his nuts. If anything, like being on someone's nuts is like you are glossing, or what do they call it? Glazing them or whatever, right? Is
Oh,
how the
yeah,
kids
hey,
phrase
yeah,
it.
get off my
if you're
nuts.
on my nuts, you're like obsessed
Sure,
with me.
yeah.
You like love me too much, right? Whereas I feel like he's trying to use it in the context of like quit bugging him. But that's not what get off his nuts means, right?
I mean, Brian is undercutting you in the chat as we speak.
Oh,
right
shit.
What's Brian
saying?
saying?
Brian, you were in the office while we were having this conversation
Brian
and you
is
stayed
saying-
silent.
He was holding
You
his
stayed
take.
silent.
He was holding his take.
Brian says, "Get off my nuts" is definitely a thing, Zach. Laughing my ass off.
Laughing my nuts off. That's
Yeah.
definitely a thing.
Hey, get off my nuts, Brian.
People are saying
Get off your nuts in the
it
chat.
definitely is.
It's
Get
a
off my
thing.
nuts.
Get off my nuts. Okay,
Although-
fair.
Someone do the Google trend search. for
Assassin
get off my
Pete
nuts.
77 said, "Get off my almonds," which I like that better.
I mean,
Oh, getting more
that's just
specific.
a
Get off my cashews.
sidestep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Meg
It's like
510 is
every-
saying this is part of your origin.
It's just, it's a weird thing. James Gunn keeps bringing up Matt Reeves and the delays around the Batman, which I don't feel like are actually that big in the culture.
No, but they are.
Oh, I'm annoyed.
To be fair,
No, of course I am too. I want that movie tomorrow. But like he always mentions it, and he mentions this like, buddy, he's taking his time, and like we're gonna let him take his time, which feels like veiled criticism. He could be giving any other reason.
Yeah, he
that
kind of
movie's
keeps
not
saying
slated
like,
for
I
right
keep
now.
waiting
right?
for that script. I'm waiting for
Well,
the script.
and
to be
also-
fair, he's usually responding to a reporter asking about the movie.
Sure,
They're
what the
asking
status
like,
is.
Fair enough.
is Robert Pattinson going to be part of the DCU? Have you considered it? What's the story of Batman Part 2? And he feels the need to hop on social media to defend that like the show is not, or the movie's not canceled. As
Sure.
Some reports
Which
have
nobody's guessing that. But I
Some
think
reports?
some reports. Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to be on the show where you guys talked about the Rolling Stone article.
Of course.
You know, for reasons. But one thought I had, I like James Gunn's logic that he mentioned in that article about no movie will be made without a great script.
A masterpiece, someone might
Yes,
say.
that's sound logic. He's it's also veiled criticism towards other studios that greenlit movies based on a release date when, there's not a script in place. Fine. But it also seems intuitive to people that love movies that you should have a script you really believe in before anybody starts rolling film. Cool. But doesn't it also put more pressure on screenwriters and is maybe a veiled criticism at any project that has been canceled or delayed or anything like that?
Well, this is something we talked about on Monday when you weren't allowed to be here, was that that's maybe why he's not revealing the screenwriter for the new Batman movie, is because if they have to kill it or start over
or if
whatever,
it takes 2 years longer than it should or something.
Yeah, he was responding to the question from Entertainment Weekly about hey, what's his, have you considered Robert Pattinson for your Batman DCU? And he's kind of said no, it's a separate thing. It's still going to be its thing. He was saying in that article, which again, this interview happened in May, that the script will be coming in June. And then Matt Bellany today on his Substack thing talked about that the script will be turned in on Monday. That's the plan. So everyone's got their eyes on Matt Reeves.
He must have reached out to Reeves.
I wonder.
But a Monday delivery is hilarious because it's what is he cramming over the weekend to polish?
That would be,
maybe he's got his mountain town, retreat where he's gotta. You heard about that writer who booked a international flight first class from Japan to Los Angeles back to Japan just so that he could finish his book deadline because he needed to be isolated from the world.
Dog, just turn off Wi-Fi.
I mean,
what an expensive way to.
I feel
if you got Matt Reeves money,
Matt Reeves is gonna have the biggest Sunday scares of his life this Sunday.
Oh God!
Just that brutal feeling of it's 6 p.m. on a Sunday, and you're I have not.
Well, I also assume
script.
he's probably finishing today before end of day Friday, but it's they don't maybe receive it or what. It's the next business day or something.
Now, when they put out the news this week about Tom Reese Harry's being cast as Clayface, they James Gunn specifically said, Matt and I, we're excited about to see this. It's
that was
why you got Matt Reeves on this casting?
Yeah, that was so interesting.
For a character who will presumably not be in your universe at all.
You know what I would love, and I don't think that this will happen, and it doesn't really relate to what you were just
Great, I love this tangent.
But if the Batman Part 2 is the last Matt Reeves Batman film, wouldn't it be cool if Matt Reeves sort of became the brain trust person for the Elseworlds stuff?
Yeah, you kind of let him oversee Elseworlds projects?
Yeah, not necessarily saying they all have to be in the same Elseworlds.
Not just Gotham, Elseworlds.
Right, but that would be cool if James Gunn was I'm working on the DCU stuff, and I have Matt working on the Elseworlds.
Well, I would say that would be kind of cool because Matt Reeves is talented and would probably do a good job. But it also doesn't seem like James Gunn would ever want to abdicate that. Because he even says, I don't want to go tossing off Elseworlds right and left just because somebody comes here. Get off my nuts, Brandon. Right? Because it needs to be worth it. Because he acknowledges, there is a degree of audience confusion with an Elseworld. Right? So it's the idea has to be so good it's worth the risk of that confusion. Yeah. And also, the risk of, oh, well, we've kind of burned that character over here. We now probably shouldn't use them immediately over here, right?
And I think he kind of talked about, Clayface was maybe going to be an Elseworlds thing, but then, they liked the character and what they were telling with the story, and they figured they could fit it into the DCU. Right. And it also felt like James Gunn was feeling the pressure of, I need some DCU projects now. I can't just do all these Elseworlds.
Maybe that's why he's not rolling out the Batman Part 2.
And that's the other thing about perfect script. Cool. Does that just mean if there's no perfect scripts, no movies get made? Yeah. I think your parent company is going to have some issues there.
Yeah, because he was saying in that Rolling Stone, he's I'm not worried about, we don't have a mandate of movies that have to come out every year or series that have to come out every year. It's you don't right now, but if this ball starts rolling, there's going to be a mandate.
Bullshit. If they went a full year without releasing a DC movie.
Well, I don't know, because Warner Brothers has done that over the last couple of decades, right? We haven't really had yearly DC releases, even in the Zack Snyder era.
Yeah, but that was mainly a product of saving. They were saving the brand by not putting out movies.
And it wasn't too far off from that. Only in that, when you're out in Birds of Prey on a Suicide Squad.
I guess toward the end they were doing Black Adam and
you take away
Shazams,
Shazams and Black Adams, and you take away COVID delays, right? They might not have been too far off from that pace.
Yeah, I think it was just the falling apart after Justice League felt there's no plans to continue on with this at all. There's lots of stuff to talk about on the Marvel side of things too. But before we do that, should we talk about a new product?
Yes. Thank you to everybody watching. I know that feels random, but we appreciate you. However you consume New Rockstars and Breakroom content, we appreciate you. Some of you might listen to us as a podcast. I occasionally, when I'm not on the show, which I'm sometimes asked not to be.
He was not on Monday, I'll tell you that much.
I sometimes catch up, during my commute or while I'm at home washing dishes or whatever. I listen to the show as a podcast. Breakroom is a podcast. And we've been doing that for a while. We've been releasing Sneak Peek and our newer show, Rumor Rundown, as podcast. In the past, we've had all kinds of other podcast shows. And often at New Rockstars, we've thought about like, man, there are some shows that would work really good just as podcasts, no video component. It is expensive and more labor intensive to make video than it is just to do audio. And there are some things that we're like, oh, that idea will probably never have a big enough audience to justify making it in video. But boy, we wish we could find a way to make it as audio. Well, folks, good news. We figured it out. We've partnered with a company called Supercast to launch a podcast network. We're calling it NR Underground. Okay, it's starting with just one show, but we have plans in place to increase that number in the near future. And that one show is called Danger Room. All three of us have appeared on this already. We've already recorded half a dozen episodes. Eric Voss has gotten in there. Other folks from the New Rockstars crew, who you will recognize from Breakroom and other channels, will appear on this channel. And the idea is like the Danger Room is, it's us talking about a wide variety of topics that don't make sense on Breakroom or New Rockstars.
Right.
So we're not going to be talking about Ironheart on there. We're not going to be talking about Avengers Doomsday. We will talk about professional wrestling, the use of AI in the creator economy, Bo DeMayo's OnlyFans account.
It's a spicy episode.
Restaurants. Are we shills?
Also potentially spicy
Also
episode.
very spicy. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've kind of thrown this over there. Again, the only way we could figure out a way to make it work, because though it is cheaper to make audio than video, it is still time intensive. And it's still time we are taking out of making videos.
And like you said, like impossible for us to monetize something about Bo DeMayo's
yes,
OnlyFans.
Literally, that would
Right?
get
Like,
kicked off of a YouTube or whatever.
And it's not what our main audience is looking for.
It's not that. It's also like Eric and I talked about this on one of the episodes. Sometimes we want to talk about a topic, but quite frankly, don't want to talk about it in front of 4 million people. So this is a way to talk about that, have the AI conversation in an audience that is not going to be so flippant about things. We're really reaching out to like our most hardcore fans. We want to have that conversation with you. Are we Disney shills? Another one where like if we put that out on New Rockstars, we would probably get flamed pretty hard for that, right? So it's a bunch of stuff like that. I'm not going to make any promises. Like I see some people saying Survivor podcast. That's the type of thing that we want to do. But again, I don't want to make promises about the content, but like absolutely, that's something that like wouldn't make sense for us on YouTube. But we do love talking about it, and we know that there's people out there who want to,
And where can they find this?
with us.
Okay, so there will be, once this video is available on demand, there will be a link in the description. But you can also go to www.nrunderground.supercast.com.
Wow, look at that landing
Look,
page.
and there's a landing page with our logo. That's how you know you've
beautiful.
hit it. And again, I should say, this is a paid subscription, okay? Right now, it is $5 a month. And right now
now
we're
it's
running
$4.50 a month.
Well, we're running 10% off for the entirety of June and July. And I know, trust me that I know, there's a lot of asks for you as our audience, right? We ask you to like and subscribe. We ask you to buy merch. In the past, we've had a Patreon. In the past, some wonderful folks subscribe and do gift subs on Twitch and bits and all kinds of stuff like that. I understand there's a lot of asks, okay? And we appreciate however you choose to support us, even if it's just giving us your eyeballs a couple minutes a week, okay? We appreciate that, and we know that, like, even at $5 a month, that prices some folks out. Know that, this is purely additive content. We are not paywalling anything that has ever been publicly released, or there's any plans to be publicly released.
And in fact, we've had like the conversation about like, should we do this episode for Danger Room? And it's like, maybe that feels more like a New Rockstars video. We don't want to put that behind.
And not only that, we're going to continue to do more and new kinds of stuff on Breakroom and New Rockstars and new channels. So it's not like this is where we're putting all our effort. This is truly for the things, and we know this is for like a subset of our fans. It's for the things that only make sense as audio only content. Okay, anything that would be better as a video will always be available on Breakroom and Rockstars, and we'll continue to try to do more and better stuff in those places. So all of those caveats out of the way, we're really excited about this. The episodes we've recorded, I've heard them all, and they're a lot of fun. We're gonna put out a free one open to everybody. We'll have John and Eric talking about being shills, right?
Yeah.
Confirming their shilldom. Thrilled to shill would have been a title I pitched that was rejected. So check that out. Again, maybe over time, as we build up the library, as we launch new shows over there, it'll be more attractive for you. We appreciate you even considering and listening to my spiel. Thank you.
Check it out, nrunderground.supercast.com.
If you email nrunderg@gmail.com, nrunderg@gmail.com, hit us with what you want.
Yeah.
And we're really open to...
Yeah.
Because like Zach said, we're going to be doing... We have the Danger Room. That's the first podcast we're launching under this new network. But we're going to be doing more shows. And we're going to start that as soon as next month. So, we want to hear from you guys what you want to hear
If there's
from
a
us.
limited series you think would be fun, like just rewatching the episodes of a certain show or in a film series. If there's another, particularly if you have a spicy topic, Brandon and I literally subscribed to Bo DeMayo's OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Zach
and went through
subscribed.
the post. I subscribed.
With the company card?
On my personal credit card. But there's something along
Zach, your
those
wife's
lines.
calling me.
If it's reading some erotic fanfic, if it's something that again we could literally not get away with on YouTube, throw those in that email or mention them in the comments.
Watching ocular surgery videos.
You. Yeah. But if you want it, some super chats.
Yeah, hit us.
Okay. Digital Wizard 69 said, what do you think the Kill DCU project is? We talked about this a little bit on Monday. They say, I think it was Constantine 2. We talked about that a couple of years ago.
It's been a while.
Apparently, Keanu Reeves hasn't been happy with the direction of the script. We thought it was Sergeant Rock. We talked about that a little bit. That's still kind of like on the back burner for DC.
The Constantine 2 is interesting because when Gunn was talking about all those projects, right? One he's writing, one he thinks people know about, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if that's Constantine 2. Because that got reported kind of in that weird middle ground.
It was like the week or two before
Gunn and Safran got announced. And I remember people were asking Gunn about it early on. And he was like, I don't know. There's a lot of... That was still when they were like, we don't know if Gal Gadot will come back.
Moved into our offices.
Yeah. I bet they would love to get that Constantine movie going. Oh, that's a... Ooh, yeah. Because you could do that movie anytime. If Keanu's down to do it, you bring back Constantine 2. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're going to have to say in that movie that, like, Constantine 1 was part of this DCU, even though they were in a city.
Elseworlds it, right?
I don't know. They were in a city with a name. A city with a name.
Were they in New York in that?
I think they were in Boston. I don't know. Oh, okay. Actually, I take it all back.
Can't remember the name.
They were in Globbity Glook, USA.
Hey. And I'm proud to be a globbity glook.
It wasn't glob. I already forgot what it was.
Yeah, that's okay. Should we go back?
Gibbledygoosh. Run it backwards.
Here's another question from Nona in the super chat saying, if you were cast by DC or Marvel, who would you be?
I would probably be extra killed.
Yeah, we would all be the 47 people killed in the Battle of New York.
Senor Red Shirt.
I would be like in one of the Russo ones where they have like people from Community show up or whatever. I'd be at
You're
like
at the
a video board.
Avengers.
Oh yeah.
I want to be wearing a mask because I don't want to sit through hair and makeup. It feels like
Okay, you're a flag smasher.
Ooh, yeah, I'd be a flag smasher behind the mask. Yeah.
I want to play Maria Hill's dad so that I can yell at Nick Fury again.
I thought Maria
Mom got in there.
I know, she had her opportunity. I want to be the dad.
Yeah. Who just follows Nick Fury around, you know.
How dare you?
Shame.
Why wasn't I invited to the tarmac?
Her mother and I got divorced.
I had the car idling while my wife ran out and yelled at Nick Fury for 5 minutes.
I thought Maria Hill's mom
She's
was
gay.
with another
I think
woman.
you're right. I think you're right. Sorry about that.
Possible. Hey, we don't know the situation.
You're right. They got divorced. She's bisexual.
It
Here we
could
go.
be a throuple. I don't know.
Omar Allure says, speaking of double movies, did you hear about U Bull's The Dark Knight movie starring Armie Hammer about a vigilante? No.
This sounds like a bad
I haven't heard about
Bull
this.
out there still working, dude.
This cannot be
Love
right.
it.
Someone fact check.
I mean, one of the weirdest quirks of copyright law is that you can.
Gosh, it is a real movie.
Is it out or is it coming
I
out?
don't know.
I mean, Army
This
Hammer
movie
needs to work.
calls it like Citizen Vigilante.
I wonder if it
think.
had to change its name.
Maybe not. But like copyright law, I
I
believe
bet they did change
you
it.
can, as long as it's, you can't have two movies with the same name released in the same year. But you can have two movies of the same name.
Yeah, that exists.
Different IP or whatever, right? Like there've been, especially a lot of those generic action movie names like, Sound and Fury.
I'm sure
or
there's a
like
couple of Takens out there.
License to Kill. There's literally dozens of movies with that name, yeah.
Interesting. Apparently, Glibbergosh.
Glibbergosh, that's what we call it.
Proud to be
Safe resort.
glibs of TikTok, huh?
They are asking, this one's for you guys.
Okay.
Thoughts on Seth Rollins' new group with Paul Heyman? Does
Okay.
it connect with you? Will it benefit Seth the same way the Bloodline benefited Roman?
Ooh, I mean, I think having Paul Heyman in your stable is always
Always
good. Paul's just great. And like having a good valet is important.
Well, and here's the thing. Paul Heyman is really good for people that are not great talkers, like Brock Lesnar or
Right.
Roman Reigns. But he's also really good with people that are good talkers,
Yeah.
like CM Punk and Seth Rollins, right? Like it's only additive, right?
Yeah.
It has a big match feel when Mr. Heyman is there. I'm all about it.
It's true.
Cool.
It's true.
Jordan O'Faro asking, off topic, y'all need to watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Like
Jordan,
the old movie?
normalize context. What are you talking about?
Like the old movie?
The old movie, the 80s movie? Or they made an animated series.
I remember the animated series. That was a weird time.
Ooh, I have a little inside baseball story about this.
Oh.
So, a guy owns the IP of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Okay.
He's been trying to get it rebooted for a long time. Two separate friends that I know, and Brandon knows, that we came up in the comedy community with, separately have both been attached to reboot scripts
Whoa.
for that film in the last
How did we get a slice of
15
that pie?
years. Neither of them worked out because the guy or the family or whoever it is that owns the rights is so like picky and strange about what they're allowed to go through. So like weirdly that there should have been reboots of that franchise made, but like the people who control it are too picky. Anyways.
This Deadline article from June 4th, 2025, very recent, talks about Attack of the Killer Tomatoes Organic Intelligence. Cult classic reborn with David Koechner, Eric Roberts, Dan Bacadol, and John
I bet
Astin
that's in
and
Turnaround
more.
or whatever.
Oh,
at
like a
this point, yeah.
spinoff or something?
I think it's like another movie in the Attack of the Killer.
I mean,
When was
that's-
it? When did you say this was from? June 24th?
This is from June 4th,
I was like, that hasn't
2025.
even happened
Yeah,
yet.
more degrees of separation. Brandon Barrick and I just did an improv show where we opened for a group with Dan Bacadol in it
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There you go.
And Dan Bacadol said my performance was middling.
That was pre-Yamava.
That was high
That was
praise.
pre-Yama. No, that was
Okay, so you
post
didn't-
Yama.
you didn't have-
No,
you
that
had
was
to-
pre-Yama.
Okay, so
Pre-Yama.
you didn't have to rush from Yamava
No.
to meet this
Not
guy.
not for the David Koechner show.
You guys will learn about Yamava in a
There-
couple weeks.
I said, David, get off my nuts. Okay?
And I jumped into the correct. No, it's get off my ass.
I'm proud to be a Glibberglarian.
You talking about Marvel?
Yeah, let's talk about Marvel.
Oh, we should tease it forever and never get to it.
We got a big Marvel scoop.
Glibbergoshian.
Glibberg, and I'm proud. Jake Schreier is officially going to direct the X-Men movie in the MCU.
Love to hear it.
It's not slated yet. We don't know when it'll happen, but they kind of confirmed this to
Well,
Deadline.
is this the secret?
Or Variety.
December
Is this the
2027?
December 28?
Well,
28?
yeah,
28.
we'll get to that. That could possibly be coming up. But I remember, I was at an IMAX screening for this. Jake Schreier did a Q&A with Stephen Weintraub at the end of it
For Thunderbolt.
for Thunderbolts, and Jake Schreier was asked, like, would you want to do another movie if Marvel asked you back? And he was like kind of like cagey about it. You know, he was trying to be respectful, I think, of like, you don't want to be too eager. You don't want to seem too hot. But you have to imagine they were talking to him already.
Oh, yeah.
About
The
it.
script is-
And I
the
think
contract's still
I
there.
love them putting this out now because I think it kind of shows with all these weird headlines around Thunderbolts being like a failure or a financial failure. I think this shows that Marvel sees, that was a good movie.
Well,
and we see the potential.
Much like James Gunn with his character actor recasting, Marvel loves to reuse people they vibe with, right? The
Yeah.
Russos, Destin Daniel Cretton, right? Like, whether it's cross-franchise or within the same franchise, if they find a director they like, they keep using
Like,
them.
Jake did a good job. Obviously, the writers did a good job on that movie too. But like, I think humanizing the characters, finding a way for us to relate with these characters. Also, that movie, Jake was talking about how like there's not a lot of cut scenes from the movie. Like, Pretty much everything they shot wound up in the movie. There was maybe alternate takes, but like not really like, because when they were asking for deleted scenes, he's like, I don't really have a lot of deleted scenes. And that movie was kind of a budget movie for Marvel in some ways. It still had a big budget, like it was 130 million, I think, what they were reporting, something like that. But relatively low compared to some of the other movies, especially where they've had like a ton of reshoots. They shot a lot of stuff practically for that movie, which I think makes it look really good.
What do you think this says about, does this tell us anything about the tone of the X-Men?
Oof, I think that's going to come down to the writing. I think tonally it's going to show us that it's not going to be maybe as fantastical. It's going to feel grounded.
Well, and I think like maybe the proof of concept for giving him an X-Men movie is the interpersonal dynamics they were able
Multiple
to establish.
characters.
And like their group dynamics, right? Like especially most of these characters had not been in films before, other than Yelena and Alexei, right? Like these people did not know each other.
I mean, Ghost was in a store. They were all in movies before.
Oh, but not together, I'm saying. Like, they had not appeared
Yeah.
together. And so finding their chemistry and having that be a strength of the movie, maybe that's why they're like, oh, you can do team stuff good.
Right.
We'll give you a bunch of... Do we think, does this tell us, do they go young X-Men? Do they go...
I think
they
will
should.
Mix. I think they will mix. You'll have some traditional X-Men who are younger and some traditional X-Men who are teacher figures at the school. Like, I think you can have an older Storm, you can have an older Beast if you want.
And when you say older, you don't mean 2025
40s.
Hugh Jackman. You mean 2000 Hugh Jackman or something like that, right? Like people in their mid to late 30s.
I think you have some of these iconic characters as teachers, in their 30s, maybe in their 40s, and then some as like new.
Kind of like Hugh Jackman versus Anna Paquin.
Yeah.
In the OG. X-Men, right?
Well, and like Storm was a teacher at the school in the Fox X-Men. So was Jean Grey. So was Scott.
Yeah.
I don't remember him teaching anything, but presumably he's a teacher there. So you did kind of have that mix of age. But I think they'll do that here too, where it's like you kind of focus on the young and the old, because it would be smart to get a younger audience invested in the X-Men.
Does this guarantee we get Stephen Yeun in the X-Men?
Maybe.
And I'm only saying that because he has the personal relationship with him.
Sentry
He was supposed to
also,
be Sentry. They know each other from Beef and maybe other work too that I'm
would be
unfamiliar with. I mean,
Cyclops? Hell yeah.
is there an obvious casting for him?
I think Storm. You make
Let's
Stephen
go.
Yeun Storm.
Let's go.
Fucking do it. Winds heed my call.
Who would it be?
I think Storm. I think I'm right.
I mean, do they get a little nuts and make him like a Professor X?
Do you make him Jubilee?
Let's go.
I think I like that.
Damn.
I think I'm here for that.
Or villain. Maybe a villain. Could be fun. Okay.
Is he Mr. Sinister?
Mr.
Do you
Sinister?
make him Mr. Sinister?
Ooh, I might like that better than John Hamm.
It's not gonna be John Hamm.
No.
I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
It's too late. Too late for the Ham Man.
Okay, and then this pivots to our other big Marvel thing.
Yeah, so in this same Variety article where they kind of announced this, the headline of this article was talking about how Disney has added another movie for Marvel's slate for 2028, which is kind of crazy because Marvel was like, Bob Iger's like, we're slowing down, we're not gonna do as many movies. This currently puts 4 movies on the slate for Marvel in 2028.
Oh.
So 2026 has 2 movies. You have Spider-Man in the summer, Spider-Man Brand New Day, and then you have Doomsday coming out in the December, assuming those Doomsday already moved to December, but assuming Spider-Man doesn't move again. Then in 2027, you have Secret Wars, and then like another untitled project that is listed. And then now, with the addition of this December 15th, 2028 date,
There's a
there's
February.
4 movies in 2028
There's a
now.
February, a May, a November, and a December.
Now some of these could change again.
They almost certainly will.
None of them have been like slated as far as what the movie is.
Yeah, and
so this December 15th date was listed as a Marvel release date.
yes, though in the past, Disney has claimed these dates early. That causes other studios to get the hell out of the way because nobody wants to open the same weekend or even the next weekend after a big Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And then later on down the road, Marvel pivots and they put in a Fox movie.
Yeah.
This could be Lilo and
'cause-
Stitch 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they left Blade on the slate for a long time, knowing that it wasn't going to be coming out. And then until Predator Badlands was ready, then they threw that in there, and they were like,
Because other studios will not get out of the way of Predator Badlands in the same way they would a Marvel movie.
But do you think? I mean, could this X-Men movie be one of the 2028 movies?
Yes.
If the next thing after
I
Multiverse
think it
Saga
almost
is
certainly
Unity,
I think
it has to be,
guaranteed.
They could
'cause
even get it into 27 if they
yeah, I would think they should. I mean, how long are you going to wait? I mean, that's already 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, Also, other movies that could be happening in 2028. Could we already be ready for another Fantastic Four movie in 2028?
That's a possibility. We know Black Panther 3 is in
I'd say
pre-production.
the one movie we're guaranteed not to get in 2028 is another Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Having had back-to-back years of Avengers coming off of that. But like maybe we get new Avengers with a Z and it's kind of a Thunderbolt sequel.
There's
Do
whatever,
you get
like
a
Ryan
Doctor
Reynolds is possibly writing.
Another Deadpool, a Doctor Strange.
There's also like Shang-Chi 2 is supposed to
I know
happen
there's
at some
another
point.
Thor movie.
Another Thor.
There's a bunch of
you get-
possibilities. And Marvel's not going to Comic-Con this year, which is stupid. I want to know when these movies are coming
Well,
out.
and do we get creative and we get like in the vein of Deadpool and Wolverine? Do we get a team up movie?
another crossover type of thing.
You know, something like that.
That's a good way to use a lot of characters. Midnight Suns. And in this kind of same vein, Damson Idris, who's in the upcoming F1 movie, he was on the Today Show, and they tried to get him to talk about Marvel, of course.
This was kind of a crazy.
They did this weird. When you read the interview, you're like, what? They do this kind of weird, like hot seat things where you're only supposed to answer yes or no. And they were asking him if they asked the actor if he had met with Marvel about potentially taking on like the Black Panther role. I don't know if that's as T'Challa as like a different Black Panther. I don't know how. And he tried to give like a no, yes, I don't know. He tried to not answer the question right, but was like very cheeky about it. Kind of like indicating that maybe he has met with Marvel.
And then
But
they
maybe
asked
not
him,
about that role though. Maybe that was
maybe.
They did ask him, if I'm remembering correctly, if they asked you to play that character, would you say yes? And he said yes.
He said yes. I
course.
mean, why wouldn't you
No,
say
what a
yes?
great
Well, I don't know. If they've already offered it to you, do you now have to remain cagey about it? Do you have to sit
that's
there and
true.
say, like, I don't know if the story makes sense
Yeah.
or blah, 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 blah? I don't know.
Yeah. And this is like the Today Show, so is this like, the Universal trying to spoil the apples of
I don't know.
of Disney via their morning show? I don't know.
Also,
But
we were talking about biggest movie of the summer. Were we sleeping on F1? Supposedly it's
I'm
tracking, or like as far as like audience test scores and test screenings,
Yeah.
the best since Top Gun Maverick.
I mean, I'm very excited to see that movie. It looks cool. I think its box office will be boosted by a lot of people wanting to see it in IMAX and Dolby, which is an increased ticket price.
Maybe it does great in Europe too.
I think
They
it
enjoy that
will do
sport
well
more.
internationally
true.
because the F1 is very popular.
Kaczynski spoke about how when Hans and him were figuring out the score for this movie, Hans was studying a ton of like international music so that they could you could feel that the movie feels really international,
Now-
which is interesting. Now I did also read a review that said like Kaczynski never figured out how to shoot the race in an interesting and electric way, in the same way that
that
Top
the
Gun
whole point
Maverick.
of the movie?
I know that makes me a little trepidatious.
Now here's my take. I'm gonna go through this camera.
Okay. Can we switch cameras?
Europeans, Asians, Middle Easterners, keep your F1. God damn it, I live in Glibberty
oh,
Club.
you're doing
Okay? And here in Glibberty Club, we race in a circle.
Yeah.
All right.
IndyCar.
Well, they would call it something different in Glibbity Glub.
Oh,
They
you're
wouldn't
right.
Call it
There's no
NASCAR.
Indianapolis.
They'd call it
Glass car?
no, not that. It wouldn't be that close. Just call it
Glass.
Poobosh.
It's Poobosh, okay?
Poobosh and Gil.
Here in my Glibberty Club,
Glibbity Golf.
we race Poobosh.
But you still have a racer named Dick Trickle.
Yeah.
By the way, it's Glibbergosh.
Glibbergosh. Like I forgot.
Yeah, and this motherfucker in the chat could have been lying.
I didn't land in Glibberglosh. Glibberglosh landed on me.
And Jay Scoots, I apologize, but I will call you a motherfucker.
Whoa, I'm not
Hey,
comfortable with that.
today, Glibbergosh celebrates its independence from Glibberty Club. We gotta wrap up.
Forces from around the world
That's it for us
are going to
today.
join Glibberglosh as we take on these aliens.
So
Today, we celebrate our Glibberglosh Day.
it's not too far off. Glibbergosh Day is, a couple weeks away.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
We celebrate Glibberglosh Day in between Independence Day and Bastille.
Now, instead of having a glizzy on Independence Day,
Whoa.
do you have a glibby on Glibbergosh Day?
I was going to say maybe you have an Americo on the Glibbergosh.
Let's wrap this up and then we'll answer a few more questions. So send them in if you got them. That's it for today. Make sure you subscribe to the Breakroom channel right here on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch where we do videos like this live. You can follow at Breakroom NR on all our social channels, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, X, Blue Sky, wherever you can find us, follow us. We'll catch you next time. Latest Gators. Goodbye.
Breaking news. Oh,
Wow. Eric's
breaking news.
real breaking news or joke breaking news? Get off my nuts.
The Heat Vision blog just confirmed that Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man Brand New Day, will feature John Bernthal Punisher.
Whoa!
You heard it here on New Rockstars!
Wow.
Change the thumbnail, Brian! Let's do another 40 on that!